podcast where we break down the movies that stick with us long after the credits roll. I'm your host, Tanya, and for our very first episode, we're diving into a horror movie that got everyone talking. Zach Cregger's Weapons. The summary of this film is chillingly simple. A teacher's entire third grade class, except for one boy, goes missing in the middle of the night, sending a small town into a tizzy. They all blame the teacher, Justine Gandy, who is determined to get to the bottom of it. What makes this movie so unique is its structure. It's told in 5 parts, each from a different character's point of view. It's like a horror version of Magnolia or Pulp Fiction. Tonight we get to see how Weapons uses this crazy format to build terrifying but often hilariously weird story. My theory? The film's mastery lies in how it perfectly blends small town gossip and dark comedy to mask the true, deeply unsettling nature of the weapons being deployed. Let's start with Justine, the teacher. The town instantly turns on her, and she's not helping her own case. She's constantly at the liquor store. This film gives us this protagonist who isn't a traditional hero. She's messy and the target of a literal witch hunt, and she's desperate. But the town itself is just odd. Why is this police chase happening in the middle of a day with no people walking around? Absolutely none. The town just feels deserted and not real. The atmosphere kind of sets you up for something, knowing something's off kilter, and the movie delivers by giving us the drunk stakeout. So, the drunk stakeout. Why does everyone in this town just stake out? There's 3 or 4 different stakeouts in this movie by just random people, not even by the police. It's a moment of dark, absurd comedy. The parents and citizens are so unequipped to deal with this massive mystery that their best idea is just to get drunk and stake out at a house. And they're not even like hidden. In the drunk stakeout scene, Justine is literally parked right in front of the house. So this movie manages to be especially effective because of these funny parts. And they break the tension and they make the characters human. And then they leave you completely unprepared for the real horror. So you're watching this and something's funny and then immediately something scary happens. So it really catches you off guard. Let's talk about James, the drug addict. So the creepy dream sequence was a very scary scene. And the image of the woman on the ceiling at the end of that sequence is really creepy. And she looks like she's from the 90s. And this is before you realize that she's Aunt Gladys, because Aunt Gladys hasn't been introduced just yet. But her outdated look is kind of like a clue that her evil is old, like she's trying to fit into a time and space and she doesn't get it right. It's definitely ancient and the evil is old. It's not a modern kind of evil. Then James, let's talk about James. He's the homeless drug addict. He is hilarious and the comic relief is really necessary until it isn't. It's like someone pulled a rug out from under you. He breaks into Alex's house. Alex is the one boy that's left after the kidnapping, or I don't even know what you would call it besides kidnapping at this point, but he finds this like plate of a sandwich and chips on Alex's bed he has no idea how long that was even there. And he just starts eating it. I'm like, the bread is probably pretty hard and the chips are probably pretty stale. Because Alex is too busy doing other things, as you'll find out later, feeding this massive army of children and his parents soup. It's pure disgusting gallows humor. And then he opens the door to the basement and he sees the missing children and he sees they're not dead, but they're like in a trance. And you can tell that in an instant, James goes from being comic relief to being toast. He's done. Like you could just tell when he disturbs that trance that those kids they're just going to tear him apart. And the movie does this a lot. It uses human drama and comedy of those characters to pull you toward the terrifying center, who is Aunt Gladys. Aunt Gladys, UTF, a touch of consumption. She's not from this time. Definitely not. She carries around what can best be described as a carpet bag, and then like referencing consumption. The dad has a touch of consumption. Nobody even knows what that is nowadays. And it just screams of a bizarre anachronism, like a truly ancient evil brought to the modern world. And the town was looking for a witch, and they got one, a literal witch. They just had the wrong person. Her power is terrifying. Watching the initial scene where she reveals her power, I was like, what in the voodoo is happening? It was really a hard scene, even for me to watch, and I really enjoy horror movies, but that was tough for me to watch. Very uncomfortable, and I was actually yelling, like, stop. Like, okay, we get the point. You have power. Let's move on. And it's the time when that movie switched from being a mystery to really becoming psychological horror. That's where it started to pull no punches after that scene. But the real reveal is what she turns the children into. They look like zombies from World War Z, but they're not zombies. They're still alive. They're just in a trance. And I don't think they have any knowledge as to what they're doing or what's going on. And I think the same of Alex's parents. They're stripped of everything. They're not human anymore, right? And it's all these little kids, and they're not innocent anymore, and they can't make up their mind and do anything different. They're just completely at the whim of Aunt Gladys. And she's using them as a weapon. I just haven't figured out why or what is Aunt Gladys's point of doing this, other than to make herself more powerful. I think she might be drawing power from them. So as they join her army, she becomes more powerful. Also interesting that she uses some of the adults as weapons as well, but not in the sense that she uses the kids. So I didn't understand the difference between how she weaponized the principal versus how she weaponized that army of kids. So like, I feel like there was something she was going to do with those kids and then just got thwarted before that happened. So we'll see if there's a sequel. But the kids, we could look at them as victims, right? Because they're kidnapped, they're pulled away from anything, but I don't think they're aware of anything. So I don't know that they're actual victims just yet, but they're definitely weapons. And they're like heat-seeking missiles. So when Aunt Gladys decides that someone's a threat, they will stop at nothing. And this becomes very obvious with the principal. Her voodoo dolls will stop at nothing but to get to the target that she has intended them to get to. So I guess weapons. Weapons is a tough watch for people who definitely don't like horror movies or don't like anything too gruesome. But I feel like it's worth it. And the moments of dark comedy might make it more bearable and balance out with the stomach churning horror, that it will make it worth watching. So if you are just on the cusp of horror movies, or they maybe not your favorite thing, this actually has enough good storytelling, I think, to outweigh it being just, a gross fest. It's not that. So I think the story itself is kind of worth watching. And then at the end, the kids turn on Aunt Gladys, and that's satisfyingly horrific. But the voiceover says, like, it's just like normal. And we went through this thing, and now some of the kids are even starting to talk this year. So, like, they're a very optimistic children's narration of, this is a thing we went through, and now we're not going through it anymore, or it's getting better every year. I don't know. It's just so matter of fact and told from that innocence of a child. That was interesting to me too. So if you have a stomach for a horror movie that will make you laugh one minute and desperately want to cover your eyes the next, I highly recommend Weapons. But it may be a little too much if you have certain phobias, like even clowns. That There's no actual clowns in the movie, but there are some scenes that are reminiscent of clown faces. So that might be a little nerve-wracking for some. Even just Aunt Gladys's makeup is very clowny, although I don't think that was the intent of for her to look like a clown, but she does. There's a lot of, sharp tools being used in some of the scenes. That's a little scary too. So I recommend give it a watch. All right, let's get into what I'm watching and listening to this week because there's so much good stuff out there right now. This list is long, but it's not as long as my true list. It's much longer than this. But right now, I'm watching on Apple TV, I'm watching Loot and Palm Royale. Both really good shows, both funny. Palm Royale is like a comic relief, but it has mystery and it's a lot of fun. On Netflix, I'm watching Is It Cake Holiday Edition, which those cakes are amazing, and I always have a hard time picking the right ones. The Hunting Wives, which I'm only on like episode 3. It's good, but there's a lot of sex in that show. I'm watching Secret Lives of Mormon Housewives, or maybe it's Mormon Wives, I can't remember, but that's been fun, and I'm kind of addicted to it weirdly. I don't know why I care so much about what Mormon housewives do, but they're messy, and that's always fun. On Hulu, they have a special compilation of every single holiday episode of the Gilmore Girls. So if you like Gilmore Girls, head on over to Hulu. It's basically a cozy season marathon in one place. On HBO Max, I'm watching Welcome to Derry. And I want to get to Stranger Things. The newest season on Netflix, haven't started that yet. I guess the years of waiting in anticipation, I kind of got to the point where, like, you know how like you get so hungry that you can't even eat anymore? That's kind of how I feel with Stranger Things right now, but I'm sure once I get into it, I'll get into it. And the new season of Doc on Hulu, I want to get that started. And All Her Fault on Peacock. I really want to watch that. That looks super good. Right now, I'm looking ahead and counting down to Shrinking coming back on January 28th on Apple TV, Bridgerton on January 29th, Netflix, and A Night of the Seven Kingdoms on January 18th. I can't remember what that's going to be on, but I'm pretty sure it's HBO Max. And yes, From season 4 is coming in early 2026, probably spring. No release date yet, but I cannot wait for that. And then sadly, American Horror Story season 13 is not coming out until Halloween next year. I don't know, but if I have to wait that long, it better be good. Luckily, a lot of my favorite cast members are returning for that season, so it should be good. Listening wise, I am in the middle of Joe Hill's King Sorrow on Audible, which is a wild ride. Not what I thought at first, and then it turns into something different after. Really good. I'll do a further review on a future show. And then I also listen to Colors of the Dark podcast. It only comes out every couple weeks, but it's always pretty good. Respect their reviews. It's a little technical, but it's really good. I like the hosts and I like the shows that they choose to review. So that one's pretty good. And I watched that. I listened to that, on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. You could find them. I think they're even on YouTube now. And then one thing I was thinking of is doing an episode diving into Stephen King's The Running Man and comparing the original book, the original movie, and then the 2025 remake and see how they differ across directors, writers, content, that kind of thing. But as always, let me know what you're watching and listening to. Drop into my socials. You'll find everything you need in the link tree in the show notes. Let me know what you think. And that's all the time we have for on this very first inaugural episode of I Saw This... So join me next time when we discuss Welcome to Derry. Really excited about that one. Thanks for hanging out with me and spending a little time in my corner of the world. If you enjoyed the show, then go ahead and hit that follow button so you don't miss what's coming next. There's always something on the horizon. And don't forget, you can keep the conversation going with me on my socials. All the links are in the link tree in the show notes. Drop in and tell me what you're watching, reading, listening to, or completely obsessing over. I love hearing recommendations and adding to my ever-growing list, and maybe we could start a discussion trail about anything you're interested in. Share this episode with a friend who needs a new show, a distraction, or just a laugh. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.